All right, let's just get right into it. We have all been there, right? You're scrolling, just minding your own business, and then some headline just reaches out and grabs you. You know it's a trap, you can practically feel how cheap it is, but you just have to know the answer. So in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on why that urge is so ridiculously powerful. And here's a spoiler. It's not a weakness on your part. It's actually a fascinating story about our psychology, our brain chemistry, and yeah, what makes us human.
This one, the absolute classic. You've probably seen it a million times. It sets up a story, gets you invested, and then cuts off right at the good part. It's basically screaming at your brain, hey, you're missing a piece of the puzzle, and trust me, it's a good one.
Or what about this one? This is the promise of a secret, almost magical solution to a super common problem. Those words, one weird trick, they're like a secret handshake. They make it sound like you're about to be let in on some special knowledge that no one else has figured out.
And of course, you've got the really dramatic ones. This kind of headline taps right into our love of a good mystery, maybe even a little conspiracy. It hints that there's a simple, hidden truth behind something really complex and kinda scary. Because when you get right down to it, all of these headlines are pushing the exact same button in our brains.
So that's the big question, isn't it? You know it's probably gonna be a letdown. You know that one weird trick is probably just, I don't know, stretch more. So why does your finger still hesitate over that link? Why do you feel that almost physical pull to click?
And here it is. This is the heart of it all. You don't click because you're gullible or because you lack willpower. You click because these headlines are perfectly engineered to hack a fundamental part of your brain's operating system. It's pure biology.
To really understand this, we need to jump in a time machine and go back to the 1990s. Yep, way before clickbait was even a thing. There's this behavioral theory that totally nails what's going on. It's called the information gap theory.
So this theory, from a researcher named George Loewenstein, it completely reframes how we should think about curiosity. He said it isn't just a mild interest in something. No, he said it's more like a feeling of deprivation. It's an itch, a mental itch, and the only way to get relief is to scratch it, which means finding that missing information.
So here's a perfect example of this in action. On the one hand, you're given a fact. A child ate a magnet. Okay, that's kind of weird, but it's just a statement. But then, the headline immediately creates the gap. It tells you there's something you don't know. Here is what happened to his blood. And boom, all of a sudden, your brain senses this hole in your knowledge, and it creates this little bit of anxiety that you just feel compelled to fix.
Okay, so if the information gap is the psychological trap, what's the actual engine driving us toward it? Now let's get into the chemistry. What's actually happening inside your brain when you feel that pull?
Well, the star of the show here is dopamine. Now, a lot of people think of dopamine as the pleasure chemical, the thing you get after you get a reward. But that's not quite right. It's really the chemical of anticipation. Our brains release dopamine when we're seeking a reward. It's the thrill of the hunt.
And all this creates a really powerful, and let's be honest, often addictive little loop. Step 1 is the trigger. You see the headline, that information gap opens up. Step 2 is the anticipation. Your brain gets a nice little spike of dopamine that pushes you forward. It feels good. Step 3 is the action. You click the link. And finally, step 4, the disappointment. The answer is almost never as cool as the question, but hey, it doesn't matter. The website already got what it wanted, your click.
And if that whole loop sounds kind of familiar, well, it should. It's the exact same brain chemistry that makes slot machines so irresistible. It's not actually winning the jackpot that gets people hooked. It's the anticipation, the uncertainty as those wheels are spinning. The possibility of a reward is often way more powerful than the reward itself.
So we get the why now, right? It's the information gap and the dopamine loop working together. But how do they actually build these little word traps? Let's deconstruct some of the most common tactics.
It actually boils down to a surprisingly small number of linguistic tricks. They're all designed to do one thing: point out a very specific hole in what you know and make you feel like you need to fill it right now.
Here are 3 of the biggest ones. First, you've got the pronoun trick. Avoid apples is just a boring fact. But avoid this fruit? Now that's a mystery. Which fruit? I have to know. Second, the listicle. 7 things you're doing wrong. This immediately makes you wonder, oh man, am I doing one of those things? You have to click to find out. And finally, they tap into our negativity bias. Our brains are hardwired to pay way more attention to threats, so a headline about a dangerous mistake is always going to be more powerful than one about a helpful tip. Now, I think it's really important to make a distinction here. Creating a curiosity gap isn't inherently evil, you know? The best storytellers, the best teachers, they do it all the time. The real difference between good bait and a good hook comes down to the payoff.
This table lays it out perfectly. Up top, you have the bait. The title makes an unbelievable claim. I bought a Ferrari for $1. But the content is a lie. It's just a little toy car. And the result? You feel cheated. Trust is totally broken. But on the bottom, you have the hook. The title poses a genuine mystery. Why is this Ferrari only $1? And the content actually delivers a fascinating answer. The result? That mental itch gets scratched and you leave feeling satisfied.
So as we start to wrap this up, I kind of want to reframe this whole thing. It's really easy to look at clickbait and think of it as a flaw in our brains. But what if this mental itch is actually one of our greatest strengths?
Because here's the thing, that same exact feeling, that need to close a knowledge gap that's exploited by some silly online quiz, that is the very same drive that has fueled every single major discovery and invention in all of human history.
Just think about it. The entire motivation to go to the moon started with a giant information gap. What is up there? The invention of the microscope was driven by the exact same question, just in the other direction. What is down there, in stuff that's too small for us to see? These are just huge, monumental information gaps that humanity, as a species, felt we just had to close.
So the next time you feel that urge to click, please, don't beat yourself up about it. It doesn't mean you're stupid, it doesn't mean you lack self-control, it just means you're human. You have this magnificent brain that has evolved over millions of years to be an expert puzzle-solving machine.
And that's really the thought I want to leave you with. The next time you feel that pull, just pause for a second and ask yourself, what's the specific puzzle this headline is creating in my mind? And is it a puzzle that's actually worth solving, or is it just a cheap trick? Because understanding the mechanism, that's what gives you the power to choose.